Hi, my name is Valerie Vibar and I'm a stand-up comic here in LA. I was born in Manila, Philippines, and how that was like, I grew up very sheltered, my family was in a good position, but it was hard because going down the street and you see the poverty in Manila, and then you move here in LA and it's different, Like here, I don't want to make a comparison, but there is. Manila is just such a poor country. It's a poor city. And you see people without, it's as if they don't believe in themselves. And that pains me. I want Manila to be the pearl of the Orient, the one that I was raised believing that this is a beautiful city. But it was it's a rough city. So I moved to the United States when I was 16. That's my official move, but I would go back and forth. The reason why was because my paternal grandfather he grew up in the Philippines and he had the American dream. So he moved to the States and he got the green card, but he didn't stay in the States because he had to leave his kids behind in Manila. So he decided to go back because his wife couldn't handle being separated from the kids. But my grandfather had the green card. He gave it to his kids, and he moved his kids here the kids didn't have a decision. So the kids moved here, but my father was still trying to establish his life here. So I was born in the Philippines, but I was, a dual citizen. So it was out of my choice to move here. This is gonna sound a little crazy than most answers because I love the Philippines. I love the Philippine culture, but I never fit in. And I'm not disrespecting the plight of the Filipino where they come here and they miss their culture. Believe me, I miss the food. I miss my family. I miss all of that, but it wasn't a hard adjustment because the main difference between Filipinos and Americans is that Filipinos, they're not confident in themselves, Brown skin is ugly, they're ashamed to speak in their language, they think that you have to speak in English and all of that. And I was never a person who was bowing my head, keeping my voice very meek. So when I went to the States, it felt like I could be myself. I could never be like that in the Philippines because I always knew who I was, and I was acting in the Philippines. I was always in GMA, I was doing a lot of work for TV and film, and I was told by a director this was in 2014, a director told me, there's one reason why you're not getting auditions here in the Philippines is because you're acting too Americanized. And I asked her, can you explain it? And she said, you walk in the room confident. Filipinos don't do that. Filipinos walk in and they're aware of what everyone's thinking of them. That was never me. So to move to the States and I didn't need to be aware of what's this person thinking? It wasn't self-actualization, it was liberation. I moved to America when I was 16 and my first job was actually a waiter because I was rebelling against my dad. He didn't want me to be a waiter. But that was, and I still do that right now. It's like one of my side jobs. But how I got into comedy was, I was in Texas and I had a Texan accent. And I moved back to the Philippines again. I was acting for TV. And they were like, you sound too American, you sound too slang, you need to forget that accent. They're like, you need to start speaking in Tagalog and master it so that we can put you on TV. So I was like, I stopped speaking English. So when I got back here, it was like no one can understand me. My accent was too thick. I was like, oh my God, and the only thing I knew what to do was acting, was being in entertainment. So I'm like, how can I get through the doors with an accent? And I was like, okay, let's just try stand-up comedy. And it's been amazing. It opened so many doors for me. I didn't think that I'd still be in stand-up 4 years later, There's so much difference because I'm still Filipino, so a lot of the things that make me laugh are the Filipino things, which won't make Americans usually laugh. So when I'm doing stand-up, I have to make sure it's general. Because I would want to have a Filipino crowd, I would want to have a Filipino following, but that's not always the case. So writing stand-up, it's more like I need to find something that everyone can relate to. So I'm really aware of how the audience would think. Whereas when I'm doing more literature stuff, more serious stuff, then that's where I feel I'm more grounded. Because I have more freedom doing literature, because for me it's like, if I have a good story, if I have a good character, if I have that grounded beliefs in it, then the culture shouldn't affect it. You know, everyone has the same, whether you're white or black or Asian or Filipino, you know, everyone has the same need for love, need for redemption, need for freedom and justice. You know, if you have those core things, then the fear of using my culture in like the heavier writing, I don't have that, because the character will bring it up. The interesting thing with stand-up is that I can be a kid. So I can be a kid, I can be a teenager, I can just laugh at all the silly things. I don't need to be an adult. I don't need to worry about the serious things or whatever. Whereas with literature, the one thing I love with that one, I actually have a background in art. I used to paint for UNESCO Philippines. So that was a big thing. That was my teenage years, painting. So with writing a screenplay, it's so different from writing a novel, because it's imagery, it's all your senses. So it was a challenge for me at first, because I wanted to write the inner monologue. I wanted to write all the cheesy things that are in our heads. But after like learning how it is, and for me it's combining my love for literature, combining my love for the fine arts and putting it in one medium. So that's what I love about this. I feel complete. So what made me want to tell the story of the governor is, first and foremost, I love my country. I love it so much that I want to see the glory of the Philippines. And the more I wrote it, I realized that that was a cover. That was my conscious saying it. My unconscious reasoning is because I want my family together. I want to see the glory of my family, which I don't think they see. I think that they're bringing themselves down, like just how the Filipinos are bringing themselves down. So that's why I want to write it. I want to see my family stand in their glory. I want to see them complete, and I want the Philippines to stand in their glory as well.